Right, we're back. Part four of the complete incomplete book of being involved in a profitable gambling group. I'm China Maniac, and here we go. I got a little list of topics here. I'm going to jam through these, and I'm going to start off with some non-sports stuff before I get to the meat and potatoes. And let's just start by ripping through that now. So, the end of March, I plan on having this on more platforms: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever. I might even hire somebody to do that stuff for me, keep all that organized, get the timestamps. But for now, this is just the way it is till I get caught up on other stuff and can start working with that. So yeah, I just went away for 10 days on vacation, one of the longer vacations I've ever taken, and I'm itching to work. I don't see how like anybody retires unless you're just miserable and you don't love what you're doing, and then you just retire and wither away. I just can't see myself not working. I mean, all week long or whatever for the 10, actually I was probably way longer than that. It's probably like 12 days, but a lot of the time that I was away, I'm thinking about stuff that I need to do, stuff that I need to get done. And the work doesn't stop just because you're away. I mean, it's not like I have this huge team sitting here waiting, doing all this work for me, and I'm just overseeing it. I do have some guys that do some stuff, and my partners are phenomenal with keeping up with stuff, carrying stuff, whatever. But while I was away, I'm working an hour here, an hour there, because there's just no way you can let this stuff pile up and continue to run things efficiently when you get back. So, you know how it is when you get back from vacation. It's just an absolute shit show. Now, back to the retiring thing, like the most successful gambler that I personally know, who, I've talked to on an in and out basis for the last 15 or 20 years, is a guy who's probably made $30 million gambling easily. If I were to guess, I don't know, but he just retired this year, and he's already looking to come out of retirement, not to make money, but just out of boredom. He's taken up some other hobbies, but when you do this every day, it's not even the money. It's the process of just the game of the whole thing, and how you're just getting things done, how you're winning, how you're executing, keeping your mind busy, keeping your mind sharp, maybe feeling like you're involved. And you might hear some barking during this episode. Got a new puppy upstairs. I'll get to that, but let's see here. Whew. Yeah, so last night got back from vacation, slept 9 hours. Didn't wake up one time to take one piss, which is, that's got to be a fucking record for a 48-year-old. So I slept great. I feel great. Now, I'm ready to get back to work and get things going. So a little about the vacation and a couple of other quick topics, and then I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes. First topic I'm going to really slam is the touts and selling picks and why it's difficult. I think Spanky did a pretty good episode on that last week. So check out Be Better Betters if if you want to hear some good shit about how negative touts are. So yeah, my vacation, I went on a Disney fantasy cruise. First cruise I've ever been on in my life. A little bit pricey, but it was well worth it. Everything set up for you there. You put your plate down, someone picks it up. It drizzles. They got people wiping the deck outside. If it's drizzling rain, wiping the deck. Everything just cleaned. Room cleaned twice a day. Everything was on point. Like, I was worrying about where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to go, when we do this, when we do that. Disney couldn't have made it any better. Steering you around the ship, what you have to do, what your options are. They had I have a 5-year-old who we brought with us, obviously, and one of the big selling points on taking this cruise was they have like kids clubs. It's called like the Oceaneer Club or something. But you could drop them off at 9 in the morning and leave them there until midnight. Not that I'd ever do that, but I'm just saying in general, from 9 till midnight, you have the option to put them in these clubs while, maybe you go get a workout, maybe you go get a massage, maybe you just want a couple of hours to relax. So yeah, he'd go in there for a couple of hours every night after dinner, and we'd go get some dinner, or just do something else. So that was the biggest selling point of the cruise. But I would strong recommend the Disney Fantasy Cruise. We hit 3 islands. We hit the Bahamas, and we had like some local taxi service take us to this place called Cable Beach. Little wild, little out of control. I think my wife was offered like everything, all kinds of drugs, cocaine, etc. Like there was a lot going on there. I wouldn't recommend going to that beach unless you're looking for like a real Bahamian local experience. If I could do it over again, I would have booked an excursion. I heard a lot of people took these charters to this island that was just very clean and peaceful and whatever. So I wouldn't do that again. But the second 2 ports we hit on this cruise were both Disney islands. Very clean, all set up, and basically kind of how I just described the ship. Get off, there's trams or, little taxis that take you to the beach, all run by Disney. All the food was fantastic. They had a great barbecue. You have that Caribbean blue water that you're looking for. Awesome experience at these beaches. Good first experience cruise for me. And even if you don't have kids, this is the type of cruise you could go on. So they have like 18 plus and shit all over the boat that, this would be phenomenal even if you didn't have kids. And it's not all Disney up in your face either. So after that, we hit Tampa for a night. Then we hit Fort Myers, stayed at a hotel called the Pink Shell. Unbelievable. One of the best hotels I've ever stayed at. Everything right on the beach, everything clean. So yeah, stayed there for a few nights. I actually lost 5 pounds in 10 days with, it's all you can eat, whatever. Came back, I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was going to be overweight. I felt a little bloated. I know I'm overweight, but you know what I mean. I felt I was going to be much over the weight when I left, but came back, weighed myself, couldn't believe it. Feel pretty good today. I think the reason why I probably lost 5 pounds in the 10 days is you're walking 10 to 12,000 steps a day, even if you're on a ship. Especially with a 5-year-old, you're just constantly doing things. So a lot of walking, a lot of timed meals, and just focusing on not killing carbs early in the morning. Just trying to go more ketogenic early to midday, and then, maybe have that carby type meal at night for your dinner. So yeah, that went pretty good. I feel good. Now I'm ready to lose some weight. That's going to be my number one priority for this year. That's got to be the number one priority. I started tracking today, and I'm actually going to insert the losing weight thing into this podcast, or I might have some short podcasts on that are just like 10 or 15 minutes a week or something. But, my goal for now is 2,000 calories a day, lift weights 3 times a week, and just pick up the walking, which will be easy because I have another dog upstairs now. So yeah, let me see here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the secret to losing weight too, if you can just eat 2,000 calories a day, try and lift 3 times a week. You don't even have to lift 3 times a week, but that's good. It's good to lift weights as you lose weight, and just pick up the walking. Try and do that for a month if you're looking to lose weight. You'll probably lose weight. If you can't eat 2,000 calories a day, then beef it up to 21. If you can't eat 21, beef it up to 22. And then, if you can do 2,000 calories a day and you maintain it, maybe go up to like 2,500 for a week, then come back to 2,000. I don't know. There's all different ways to do this, but I've lost 100 pounds 2 times, which means I've gained 100 pounds 2 or 3 times. So I'm an expert at gaining and losing weight. You want to gain weight? Talk to me. You want to lose weight? Talk to me too. I mean, it's very hard to do, but once you get into the process of losing weight, it's like riding a bike. It's very easy. So I feel like I'm going to be really focused on doing that, really determined, especially now that I'm documenting it. I should have no problem cutting this weight. Anyhow, we came back home with a dog. Um, and this is something that I want to say about pets, okay? If you're thinking about getting a pet, you better be ready to go all in. In my opinion, raising a puppy is harder than raising a baby. I just think it is. Like, I mean, obviously, you have to be very careful with a baby, but the puppies, you're just, if you want to raise them right, you have to be like literally all over them every step, early in the morning, all the walks, all that stuff. And it doesn't. And we got this puppy from my mom, who her dog passed. My mom's in her mid 70s, but her dog passed in the fall, and she just impulsively went out and got a dog when it's probably not the best time in her life to get a young dog, because if you can't properly take care of it, then it's just not a good time to get a dog. So we took the dog home. It's a Maltipoo. I have a Maltese here. We had another Maltese who was a boy. This one's a boy we brought home, and he should fit right in here. But there's mistakes that people make when they get dogs, and these are mistakes that my mom made. Not to throw her under the bus here, but these are just facts. Don't use the fucking pee pads if you get a dog. Everybody's, use the pee pads. We got a dog from my mother-in-law about like 2011 or 2012, and they did the same thing. They put them on the pee pads. You put them on pee pads, it trains them to pee in the house. And then when they go to other people's houses, what do? There's no pee pads there. They pee in the house. Just take them out and walk them. If you can't walk the dog multiple times a day, then, or you don't have a big yard to help you with that, don't get a fucking dog. The other thing I want to say is, don't put cheese on dog food to make the dog eat. Dogs can go 3 to 4 days without eating, and that's usually if they're sick, when they're going 3 to 4 days. So if they don't eat for a day or even like 2 days, they're probably going to eat the next day because they need the food to survive. So you get in the habit of putting cheese on food for a dog. Now I have to undo that habit. That's what I have to do with this dog. It's the same thing when you see kids that will only eat ice cream or candy or whatever for dinner. Like, if you give them that, then that's what they're going to want, and then they're not going to eat their regular food. So whatever. And I would say this as far as having kids too. Like, if you don't have the time or you don't have the money to take care of a kid, don't have a fucking kid. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time to raise kids and dogs the right way. So if you don't, if you can't do it, don't do it. It's not easy to own a dog, even if you're younger. Like, some people, I'm going to get a puppy, and then they just don't do shit with them. And then, these dogs, they need to go out, they need to walk, and if you don't take them out and walk them, just think about, it would be like you going to jail. It's the same fucking thing. So, that'll wrap that up. So that's 13 minutes of 13 minutes there of bullshit. Now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes. I got some stuff in here, some notes that I took, and I haven't even gotten into like a lot of the main stuff of this complete incomplete group being involved in the profitable betting group. I have so much more stuff that I'm going to get into, but every week people keep sending me questions. I keep getting DMs about all kinds of stuff, and I'll do my best to answer this stuff, but some stuff I'm just not going to be able to answer because I don't know all the answers. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Have I made a living doing this since 2009, either in poker or sports? Yes. Have I been profitable every year? Yes. Have I been on a lot of massive downswings? Not really. But I might not have the answer to your question because I do things my way, and there's some stuff that I just don't jump into, like parlays and same game parlays and all that stuff. Like, some people tell me, oh yeah, you should be doing them, this and that. But it's like, until I need to, I don't need to. It's just another thing that I don't want to focus on. So anyways, a lot has been going on with Elf and his what are these called? These Twitter spaces. And, I've gotten some DMs from people like, hey, China, hop on there and fucking rip these guys. Because I have made some comments about like Mickey Mace and how he's a fraud. And I think that's pretty commonly known in the AP community that, guys like him are just looking to build a social media presence. And that's just the way it is. And a lot of these guys that are going on these spaces, they're just complete fraud scammer touts, which is like 99.9% of people that are selling anything in this space. And there are exceptions to the rule, and I'll get to those. But the bottom line, I don't have time to go on these spaces. These spaces are going on at 10 at night, okay? I've been up since 6 o'clock in the morning. I got a 5-year-old. I get up with him in the morning. 10 o'clock at night, I'm just not able to go on these spaces, sit on there, wait to get on, talk, get cut off after X amount of ripping somebody, and then get back and then, have a good night's sleep and be able to function the next day, run a business and take care of my kid. It's just not going to fucking work. So unless I was the one like featured in the segment, maybe I would go on for an hour or two. But as far as like just going on there to rip people, no fucking way. Just not worth my time, and it's not worth the aggravation. I could just rip them here and whatever. So giving away profitable picks is fucking hard, okay? And Spanky covered a lot of this in this podcast, and I've been covering this for the past 3-4 weeks on some of these episodes. But giving away profitable picks is very hard. Now, it's just a fact. If you can fucking win betting, you will not be selling fucking picks, okay? That's just a fact. You're giving away dog shit if you think you're giving away profitable picks, which most of these guys don't think. They'll say that, but they don't really think that. They would just be scaling and betting this stuff higher. Circa takes massive limits on sides and totals. Any of these guys giving out sides and totals could be getting down massive amounts of money at Circa and actually fucking winning. And that for all of these guys, they're all fucking scam frauds. And there might be some exceptions to the rule. There might be some guys that could maybe give away a profitable prop package, maybe. And I've mentioned before. I think I've mentioned Hitman. I know pros that do subscribe to Hitman, and I'm talking pros that are making millions of dollars a year in this industry. Okay, some of those guys subscribe to him for that information. I know pro groups that subscribe to Raz, but more of those pro groups that are subscribing to Raz are just to get the information, not to bet the actual picks. Maybe they're betting the other side if they find value that way. So there can be situations where certain stuff is profitable. But like earlier this year, I set a goal to lose some weight, and I did not lose the weight. And I said if I didn't lose the weight within a certain amount of time, I'd give away 10 $500 free roll prop bets at lines that I bet them, at the lines that I got the prop bets for. Now, I owe 2 still. I gave away 8. I've just got caught up doing other stuff, but I promise I will get to those other 2 bets. And by the time I gave those bets away, I waited till like an hour before kickoff. In most of these cases, I gave away 8 of these picks. I would say maybe 1 or 2 of these were widely available. Like maybe you could get it on Prop Builder. And the reason being is because there was probably sharp opposition. So right then and there, that tells me if the line is available, you're probably going against some other sharps. And that's not really where you want to be. That's not where you want to be making bets. So for me to give this shit away, I think that most of these were available on Fliff. Now, Fliff is a slow-moving site, or they were. I don't know if they've sped up their odds, but in the fall, extremely slow. I could move markets all over the world on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Saturday comes and the line might be available on Fliff. Maybe they have fixed that. Maybe they haven't. I don't know. But the bottom line is, by the time the games kicked off on most of these games, the lines weren't available for the most part anywhere. Maybe even just one instance that they were available. I don't know. Maybe it was 2. Anyhow, I gave away those 8 picks, and I gave them to people based on where I bet them at, Okay, so if I got the bet on Tuesday, I was giving them the good line out of good faith for this free roll and not screwing them and giving them the numbers that I moved them to before kickoff. I wanted to give people good bets. I promised the free roll, so I didn't fuck people over, and I went 7-1 on those 8 picks that I gave away. Now, if I was selling these picks, okay, these would be fucking no good if I already bet them. And if I wasn't the one that bet them, maybe somebody else would have gotten to them. If I didn't bet them and I was planning to release them at some point, somebody else might have beaten me to it. And then you can't give those picks away. But there are people out there that follow that they see steam like that, and they'll give the picks away at lower numbers. I think Fezzik did that this past year. I think during football, Hitman was on an absolute tear, and Steve Fezzik gave away a play that Hitman gave away on a package, and he gave it away at like a yard worse. But I'm pretty sure that play was pretty much obliterated by the time Fezzik gave it away, because when somebody releases a pick that moves markets, the lines are going to go ape shit. So I can't speak on that with 100% authority, but I'm pretty sure that's what the case was. Just going off memory here. But the bottom line is, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, why would I sell these 8 picks when I can just go 7-1 and maybe get 5 to 10 dimes on these or whatever? Like, what is the point in me selling these for $99 a pick? There is no fucking point. That just goes to show you, most people, 99.9% of people, I guess it's got to be 0.5 or more, that are selling picks are just giving you fucking dog shit that can't win. And otherwise they would just scale themselves. I mean, I've literally come from fucking nothing, okay? And I figured out over the past, 16, 17 years, how to do it in poker, which made it easier for me to do it in sports. And you're trying to tell me these guys are pro bettors and they've been around for so long and they win so much, but they can't figure out how to fucking scale their bets? No, they just can't fucking win. They're selling you fucking dog shit. Stop buying fucking picks. I give away some Super Bowl props every year, and I've given away the national championship this past year and the year before. I put those out on Twitter sometimes, or maybe give them away on podcasts, because sometimes those don't move. That market is so huge. I'm betting a lot of unders. And eventually the line will move, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just won't move that stuff because they have so much action on the over. So that's a scenario where if I wanted to go tout, I could probably be like, hey, I'm going to release fucking China's, Super Bowl prop pick package. And you can do that with maybe some player props, but I would never do it. Game props, probably not. That stuff will move and then it'll get topped down to death. But, that is a case where I think maybe you could, but then, is my name and reputation worth, making a few bucks off a fucking prop package? And, no, it's not worth it. And let me see here. Yeah, but just another note here, which I already went over, if they were that fucking good, the market would be gone. It would be absolutely gone, if you're that good. Some touts, maybe they can win, but, but again, finding the right tout who can win is like finding a needle in a haystack. It's fucking not easy. How many are you going to go through before you find out that somebody is a winner? And then how do you know they're a winner? It could just be a short-term winner, and then they fucking go to shit. I see one guy who I'm not going to call out by name, but he's giving away picks for, ten to $12 a month, and he claims, oh, I won all this during college football, or I do it by watching the games. People ask me my edge, and I do it by watching the games. No, buddy, like I guarantee you're a fucking loser. Otherwise, you wouldn't be selling picks for fucking $10 a month. Okay. If you could get that, you can get down whatever in college football and college basketball, but you're charging $10 to $12 a month for picks. Yeah, maybe you did win in the fall. Maybe you are winning it at college basketball now. But the bottom line is that's not a fucking sample. That means you just won a little bit. Let's see how you do over 3,000 plays. Guarantee you're a fucking loser too, just like the rest of these schlubs. And that's the other one. Anyone who fucking tells you they win by watching ball is a fucking fraud. Oh, I watch ball. Yeah, I fucking, I see them trap. I see them do this. But no, it's fucking bullshit. You don't fucking win, okay? I know the guys that the biggest winners in the world in college basketball, and I know how they win, and it's not by fucking watching ball. And they're moving these fucking markets. By the time you even give your plays out, these markets are probably already fucking obliviated. And you're giving out stale lines on what you fucking think is going to win. And then I see these guys that say they win by watching ball, calling out other touts, calling them frauds, when you're a fucking fraud yourself. There's nothing more comedic than that, than a fucking fraud tout calling out another fraud tout. And the thing is, the guy that's selling the $10 to $12 picks per month thinks I really believe some of these guys believe that they're winners, but they just don't understand the math by this. Let's see how you do after 3,000 plays. Can you win after 3,000 plays? Probably not. You're going to be a fucking loser. And then when you start losing, you're going to be like, oh, I'm just on a bad run, this and that. And you're always going to point back to how you won in the fall or how you won in the fucking, in the beginning of the college basketball season. The truth is you fucking suck and you don't know how to win. So that's it. Fuck touts. Don't give them your money. Now, there are some exceptions to buying shit, and that's one thing that I do disagree with what Spanky said, but he even called himself out at the end of his last episode because he's selling an odds service, which people can find value from. But there is some data stuff you can find out there that can help you win, but some data stuff out there is probably bullshit. Again, if you don't know what you're doing and you're not a professional, a lot of that data stuff is going to be absolutely bullshit for you. So, you're wasting your money buying it a lot of the time. I have a friend who is betting a small market and he's buying data to help him with his handicapping process. And that's what a lot of pros do. And he's fucking crushing it. He's getting cut off from books, right, left, all over the place. But he knows what he needs and what he's looking for. There's a lot of these places that are going to sell you data, and the shit's just going to fucking, you're not going to know what to do with it. Unless you know what to do with it, then it's fucking absolute shit. So, to quote Spanky, don't give them a fucking dime, okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it today for touts, and I'll probably have more next time. But as far as like going on Elf Stream and like fighting with these guys, it's kind of pointless. They're all frauds. So just do that. Learn how to win yourself, or just give your accounts away. That's the best way to do it. Would you rather fucking give away whatever you're paying for a fucking pick package and lose? Or would you rather just give your accounts away? You're better off giving your accounts away and just having them get cut off and moving on. Find more accounts. That's the fucking key. And I'm going to get to that later about finding more accounts. That's what you need to do. So, let's see here. Someone was asking me about big purchases. What do you do with big purchases? I think I answered this before. I don't buy a lot of fucking things, that cost a lot of money. Like I said, I've worn this fucking sweatshirt every one of these podcasts except for one, or a different variation of this sweatshirt without the gray backing here. This hat I got for $5 at Walmart. It's the most fucking comfortable hat I've ever had in my life. Shout out Walmart. Go get the fucking hat. But yeah, big purchases, that's not me. I bought a new car in like 2022 and I'm still driving it. Shout out Adam Leviton, Honda Pilot. Boom. But my first big purchase when I started making money, 2009, 2010, maybe I had $15,000 saved up grinding 3-6 limit hold'em on Poker Stars and Full Tilt Poker. When I learned how to win and I had like 15K, I went to the dentist and the guy's like, have you ever thought of getting braces? And I was like, no. And I had still have a little space here between my teeth. But I had a fucking big space between my teeth. And I didn't even notice it my whole life. I didn't even notice it at all. Like it never, didn't bother me, nothing. I didn't give a fuck. But he was like, have you ever thought about getting braces? And I was like, uh, no, but whatever. And he just, he sold me on it. So I got the braces, fixed a lot of problems with my teeth, actually closed this gap, completely closed. And then I had this little bridge behind my teeth, not a bridge, but just a little piece that would keep them together from spreading apart. That broke a couple times and I didn't go back in and get it fixed. So, that, it just opened up a little bit. Got the braces again for like another year, closed it up. Thing broke, didn't fix it. So haven't gone back to it again since then. So that's one thing. That was my first big purchase, the braces. Well worth it. That's the type of shit you should be spending money on, is shit that's gonna, it's a cosmetic purchase, but my teeth were a little fucked, not wicked fucked up, but they were a little fucked up before, and I definitely needed them. So, and if you do fix your teeth, which I would recommend doing, you got to keep up with them. I just, shit broke and I just never went back and fixed them. Keep up with it. That's important shit. LASIK surgery, that was probably the second big purchase I made. My eyes went to shit. They were good for a couple of years, but my eyes are back to how they were. They reverted back to where they were, probably because of the weight loss and weight gain over the years. So yeah, work hard, nonstop, and make some money, and you can improve your life in certain ways. You don't want to be like me when I was in my 20s. I'll give you a little fucking story here. You don't want to be this guy. I'm going to give you a cocaine story from early 2000s. You don't want to be this guy, but it's a story. I was probably up for 2 or 3 days. Okay. This was, I think, 2003. I was probably up for 2 or 3 days. It was probably middle of the night, pitch black, 2 a.m, something like that. And me and my buddy, Jay, were driving from his house to this dealer's house. And we were driving through the city of Lowell. Shout out Mickey Ward, boxer. That's his hometown. Jack Kerouac's hometown as well. Anyhow, driving through Lowell, Mass. I was going like 65 miles an hour in a 30. Get pulled over. This would never fly today, but get pulled over. I had the Bee Gees cranking in my car, the song Night Fever, which cranks. I had a nice system in my car. Songs cranking, and cop walks up to the window and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I just looked at the guy and I said, hey, sorry, dude, fucking Bee Gees are on. And, I just got a little, I was a little ramped up. And the guy's like, what? Fucking license and registration. Takes it. A couple of other cruisers pull in. And then, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm going to jail. And, next thing that happens, they got some call over the speaker. It was like, I don't know if it was a 187. It was like some code came over. And the guy's like, it's your fucking lucky day. And he's like, have a nice day, have a nice night. And these guys just hopped back in their squad cars and fucking drove away. Now, am I proud of that? No. But that's just fucking how I was back in the late 90s, early 2000s to late 2000s. I wasn't exactly the model citizen, I was fucking living life on the edge. I'm probably lucky to be alive today. Don't be that fucking guy. If you're that guy and you live life like that now, it's hard to get out of it. I'm lucky I got out of it, because I could have, I would say, sharp people that I know growing up said, you're probably 50 to 1 just to make it to 40 years old. That's like how hard I went back then. And I used to do that like two days a week, 3 day benders, just fucking living life on the fucking edge. Really lucky that I got through it and like put myself in the position I am now, because very easy to go down that path. And then, if you start getting into harder drugs than that, then fucking, there's almost no way out of it. You're just on and off the rest of your life. And I'm fortunate, I pretty much got clean in 2009, and like 99.99% of my life since then, I've been, no alcohol either. I mean, I still drink from time to time. I'll have a beer, maybe a couple of beers. I'm going to meet some guys at Sloan this weekend. I'll probably have a few beers, but I don't go crazy anymore, and it's just not worth it. Once in a while I will, not like that, but I'm just saying, like having drinks or whatever. But it's not a good way to live. Which leads me to another story, and I think it was this weekend too. I had a sports form with me. I used to cap off this, it was this magazine that would come out, or like a paperback. It was called Sports Form. It would come out every week, and it would have all the results from all the games. It would be the equivalent of going on like ESPN.com right now, clicking on Duke and seeing their results for the prior 20 games, and what the lines were, and what the lines were and who they played. And my strategy, and this actually did work back then. You see people that shred touts, like shout out Ferris, who just posted some of this shit about how a team did in their last 10 or whatever. But I used to take this Sports Form magazine, and what I would do is, I would see like, and I was especially, the MAC was where I made the most of my money back then, when I was like winning. And I would see like, Kent State played Toledo, or whatever, or Toledo played Kent State. Toledo was favored by 5 on the road, and they beat them by 35. Now they're at home and they're given like 9. Well, they would be given 12. I would just put an action. If they want, the discrepancy was that much in the first game on the road, well, now they're at home. That, I didn't have any information to injuries, any shit like that. I would just take that team who blew them out already, and I would put it in an action point bet with no cap, meaning, if they're given 12, every point over 12 they win. I win X amount, whatever the amount value is. Every point under that, I would lose it, plus the 10% juice, and I would put no cap on it. And it was always beneficial to put no caps on these games, because if you're a 12-point favorite, if you're not going to cover, it's likely going to be way less than if you do cover. You might win by fucking 50. But if you don't cover, typically a favorite like that, maybe they win by 7 or they win by 5. So your downside versus the upside, it isn't even close. And that's why a lot of books don't offer these anymore. And that's what PointsBet was, the site PointsBet. That's what they were. I mean, these bets, I believe, would be way more addictive than the fucking parlays if books offered these, because you're never out of the fucking game. Like, how awesome is that? When it's good to cash a game. Like if you have like Alabama in football and you're laying 7 and they're up 35-7, you're on cruise control the second half. But it's better when you're up, 28-7, it's second half, and you have, I don't know, let's just say you have $50 a point on every point. Every touchdown's worth $350. The scrubs come in, like you're rooting the whole fucking game. It's the best way to bet, in my opinion. The most fun way to bet is betting action points. You can't sell me on anything else. It's just so it's exciting. But anyhow, I capped off this sports form, and this Saturday, I think it was this Saturday, I was at this kid's house. I went like 19-1 on all these action point bets, and I won like 18,000 or something like that. And I think after that, I took the money and I went to Vegas for the Super Bowl. So this would have, been in like, mid early January, and then I went out there for I think it was the Panthers Patriots Super Bowl. I think I got so fucked up the first night I was out there. I was pretty much out of commission for a few days, a couple of days recovering after that, and then watched the game. And then the next day before we flew home, I think I went into the pit and I lost all the money martingale and blackjack like a fucking idiot. I actually did that on my 21st birthday too. Martingaled up to like $500 into like $6,000, and then I lost it all in one hand. And then I did it again the same night, and I got it up to like $3,000, and just lost it all. And then it's the worst fucking thing ever. But anyhow, I lost a good sum of money. This is back when, I knew some stuff, but there was still some stuff that I didn't know. I was a fucking losing better overall back then. I was sharp on some things like these action points, but I was just out of control with how much I would bet when I would get fucked up, or, I'd have no problem going into the pits when I was fucked up and just going hard. And like that, you just can't be a winning gambler doing that. That's just how it was. But that's how I learned. When I learned how to win, you just put all that stuff out the window and you just don't do it anymore because it's stupid. So anyhow, that's that. So that night ended pretty good. I got lucky to get away, but again, and some people say, oh, it was irresponsible for you to drive, whatever. Well, the truth is, like, in the 70s and 80s, I think there were some states that didn't even have laws against, driving under the influence. And now we're looking at the early 2000s. Well, where I'm from in the 80s and 90s, you could, in the 80s and 90s around here anyways, like mid 90s, when we were in high school, we would go out and drink 20, 30 beers, get in the car, drive, which is fucking insanely stupid, get pulled over, and nobody got taken to jail. They would just tell you to go home, or they would follow you home. That's just how I grew up, and that's just how it is around here. I mean, it doesn't make it right, but that's just what the culture is around here, or how it was. Now with these cameras, you do something like that, and with like all the Ubers readily available, you're going to jail 100%. Unless they get called for a 187 or whatever the fuck it was that I got called for. Or they called when he had me pulled over. So, yeah, don't drink and drive. It ain't worth it, especially with the Ubers. And, I just wanted to throw that fucking story in there. Anyhow, another question I've been getting, I always get asked this question. How do you deal with taxes? And I'm not a fucking tax accountant. I mean, the two most popular ways, and this isn't tax advice, but I would contact your CPA. Okay, you got a local CPA. I would go with a local CPA who you can establish a relationship with, who you can call whenever you need to, and not use somebody that just is in a shop for 2 months a year like H&R Block or something like that. You need a good CPA who you can rely on, that has the answers. Now, the two most popular ways that professionals, the way they structure their taxes when they're dealing with other partners, and again, this isn't tax advice, this is just what I know, is everybody just pays their share. It's that simple. Like, everybody's always like, oh, well, if my cousin gets an account and does this, and I'm getting 40% of it. Well, if you're getting 40% of the winnings, then you should be paying 40% on the taxes, and he's on the hook for 60%. If you want to go an extra step and maybe make it a little more clear, meaning, you could have him 1099 you for your portion of the winnings. So if he does get audited, he doesn't have to point the finger to you. There's a trail there that leads back. But I mean, either way is probably fine, but I would go to your CPA and ask him or her what they think, how they would do it. As long as you're paying your fair share, that's all that matters. Pay your share. You can sleep at night, and you can still get away with investing, or not get away with. You're able to invest a lot of money in different ways into your, if you're gambling is your business, then there's just different stuff you can do that I didn't know you could do. Again, talk to your CPA and they'll walk you through that. Another thing this past week, this guy who gets me accounts came to me and said, I have this account. I know you and your guys can murder it. And it was like an LV Action account. And I was like, yeah, we definitely can. And then he showed me the messages from his bookie saying, like, look, if there's any sharp action, any bots, any of that stuff, the bets are getting voided and you're not getting paid. Now, this guy, he's like, we should still take it. And I said to him, I was like, well, he pretty much spelled it all out right there. It was pretty clear as day that he just doesn't want this type of action. So why would we do it? I was like, are you gonna pay the money if he stiffs to me and or whoever's originating the account? Are you willing to take that sacrifice after that guy said that? And you're just gonna, I'm like, the guy told you point blank. So don't chase bad bookies. Some bookie sends you a message like that, then you just don't bet with them unless you got the account and you're the one originating. Then you're pretty much you're just free rolling, because yeah, he might steal from you and you have to put in the work to put in the plays, but you're probably going to bet the plays somewhere else anyways. So my recommendation would be, if you're the one originating, when I was originating at first, I wasn't doing this, but then later on I was like, wait a second, it's just a free roll for me no matter what, because I'm always going to win. I'm never going to lose. The only way you can really get fucked is if you go on a bad run, pay them, and then they say, no, this is sharp, fuck you, we're not paying you, which is possible. But if you're, when I was getting a lot of accounts for myself before my well dried up directly, that's how I would approach a lot of it after doing this for a little while. I would just pound them, and then, maybe they pay, and you just tell them, you just play stupid. You just tell them up front, like, well, what's a bot? I don't know what a bot is. What is sharp action? I don't even know what that means. Sometimes they'll pay you out, but be careful. Don't chase bad bookies. If somebody sends you that type of message, then they're probably going to try and steal from you. Let me see here. What else? Yeah, big, I've talked about this on the last episode. You got to learn to put away the big losses and just move on. I haven't thought about, I lost some money on the Super Bowl. Haven't thought about it since then. Only when I'm talking on here, it's gone. And that's what you got to learn how to do. And that, I think, people that run and smaller partners that get small accounts that, me or my guys bet into, they cling to the losses more. And you just have to know, when you're dealing with high level people, they're probably going to win. And you have to know that, they're going to win. And you just got to get past that. You're going to lose sometimes. Maybe you're going to go on some downswings, but you just got to put away those big losses and just know, like, every bet is worth X amount. It doesn't matter if you lose for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Every bet is worth X amount, whether it's $1 or $2 or whatever. Same way when I was playing poker. I never really thought about it until someone said it to me. It was just like, well, if you play 60,000 hands a year and you make $60,000, then every hand you play is worth $1, whether you win the hand or lose the hand. And it's the same way with betting. Every bet is worth X amount, whether it's a winner or a loser. And if you're a winning bettor, then you're going to have whatever amount of profit over time. So for the most part, markets change, et cetera, and, every bet might not be worth equally. But for the most part, you can look at it that way. Just know, if you're a winner, you're a winner. It's a big skill to learn to move on. Like I said, if you know your edge, it's easy to do that. And I kind of had a bad way of thinking about things, and I used to get so fucking frustrated when I would lose, or I'd be way better than someone I'm playing heads up in a limit hold'em poker game, and I get fucking torched. I'd get torched by them, and I would just be like, what the fuck? Fucking punch a hole in a laptop, fucking throw a mouse across the room. I know guys that have smashed 10 plus laptops. I've broken 2 laptops. I've smashed a couple of mice. It's a lot different when you're in real time playing poker. Um, to do something like that, you just get this rate, you're playing against, you're thinking maybe they're cheating, maybe they backdoored your computer. You start thinking all kinds of fucking crazy thoughts like that. Different in sports betting, but in poker you just don't know, and you're in the heat of the battle, and you're getting results over and 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 over. And if you don't have control mentally, you can go fucking nuts. And I do think my computer might have been backdoored one time when I did smash it. There was some shady shit going on. Smashed it, and then after I smashed the computer, I got a new one, and just everything changed. It also could be psychological, though. I have no fucking idea. But what saved me was this book called The Elements of Poker. I used to complain. I was a complainer about my losses, this, that. And I would recommend anyone read this book if they're having if they have trouble mentally dealing with losses. It's called The Elements of Poker by Tommy Angelo, who's I think he's like a coach under like Phil Galfon's umbrella. But that's what kind of taught me, like, oh, each hand is worth X amount, try and play your A game, not your B game. Your B game might be good enough, but your C game is just it's not good enough. Why play? Well, that like people start losing money in poker and they stick around extra long playing their C, D, and F game. But is it even worth? It's not worth playing. You should just quit. But mentally, it's hard to do that. But as long as you're playing your A game, if you're losing, then you should just keep playing. Because like I said, each hand is worth X amount. But when you're playing your B, C, D game, those hands aren't worth as much. You're probably worth negative whatever, no matter how good the game is. And it's kind of the same way in sports betting. Like, if you're the one originating or whatever, and you're doing things differently or you're betting emotionally, then you probably need to take a step back and analyze. And this book saved me, and I don't get into those mindsets anymore. Just because I just know. It's simple. It's logic. It's just whatever. I know I'm a winner. I know I'm going to win. And if I'm not winning, then I just try and fix things. I try not to get fucking frustrated over it. Because then you can go to a dark place when that happens. And I've gone there in poker before. I talked about that when I was on the Risk Takers podcast with GP13. I went to a dark place where I was in a major depression for about a week after about 30 days of playing my D game. And I got out of the depression by just Googling how do I get out of a depression, and I followed those instructions. So a 7-step guide, and that 7-step guide, if everybody in the world followed that every day, or for the most part, I think most people wouldn't be depressed all the time. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to that, but for the most part, if you're eating right, you're walking, you're getting exercise, and you're sleeping right, and you're doing the things that you should be as a human, there would be way less cases of depression. What else here? Yeah, learning to take bad beats. I say this all the time. Bad beats don't exist. They exist in your head. Just remember, every hand, every game is worth X amount. If you let those bad beats compile up in your head, then you're just fucking, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. So just remember, bad beats don't exist. They only exist in your head. Your hourly is your hourly. Your bet per one per wager is your one per wager. So you need to it's almost like becoming a fucking robot. You're just looking at the bottom line. That's it. You're a robot. You look at the bottom line and you don't get on tilt from the results. And that's why I've mentioned this before. I fucking hate it when I have people messaging me about plays that we bet that are losing. Unless it's somebody really close to me that's doing the work with me or whatever. Because frankly, I want us to win. I want everybody to win. But at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck, because I know how much this shit is worth per hand I know who wins. I know who doesn't win. And I know roughly where we're going to end up at the finish line. I don't give a fuck what happens in between. When that stuff starts getting in your head, that's when you go fucking crazy as a gambler. And the truth is, like, people cling to those results. They just cling, and it's usually the smaller guys. There are some big guys that I deal with that sweat this shit hard like that too, but it's not fucking, trust me, it's not worth the fucking space in your head. Just move on to the next game. Move on to the next game. Move on to the next game. Let me see here. What else do we got here? Yeah, so I'm trying to work on stuff where I'm just hands off, at least in the off season until football. Then jump back in the thick of things. So that's like pretty much what I'm going to be working on. Weight loss, training a dog, and just getting stuff more automated where I have a lot of stuff going where I'm just hands off and I'm doing less work, just more administrative work. That's how you build. You can't do everything yourself. And when you try to do everything yourself, you're going to fucking eventually blow up, which has happened to me a couple of times this year. So don't want to be there. You just want to put more stuff out there. Yeah, big losses, like, first couple of times I lost 100K on a game, it stung. And in my, like I was just saying, it could get in your head. Not or 100K in a day, or 100K in over the course of a Friday through Sunday slate. It can get in your head. And I'm very, very fortunate that I had much more 100K wins. Like, I had a streak of so many 100K weekends or whatever winning before I got my first one, which I think I posted on Twitter in probably like 2021, early 2021 in the fall. Might have been 2020, probably 2021 though. And I think I posted it, and this is before I probably had 300 followers then, but yeah, lost 100,000, didn't feel good. I think I lost 100,000 the next week too. That didn't feel good. And and then what do? I'm like, I know I'm going to win. You think about it, and like those are big numbers. Those are really big numbers. And when you're winning them, seems easy, feels like it's never going to go the other way. But then when it does, you have to, like, you got to think, is this the way it's going to be from now on? And then, and those were early in the season. Same as this past year. I had some rocky weeks, the first 4 to 6 weeks. Like, in some cases, it just might not be worth betting a lot of those early weeks, 4 to 6. And there's some stuff that's definitely great, but when you're betting at scale like I do, like, maybe it's better to cut back and just bet more of the sure stuff. And you have less of those 100K type loss weeks. Because frankly, like, no matter, you're working with little data, and I think it's getting harder to win early in the season than it was in years past. I think later in the season, not that it's easy, but you just have more data, and it's easier to pick stuff apart and find what you should be betting versus when you're working with little data. I don't know. It's just how it is. But I was very blessed and fortunate that I was able to, run good on those big wins when I did. And after those couple 100K losses I had, took off like a fucking jet plane, and things were good. You just got to know. You just got to stay in the fucking pocket and keep fighting. And as long as there's nothing majorly off, it's going to come back to you. And again, it's just how much are you worth per bet, per hand, etc. The only way you really got to question this is if it just keeps happening over and over and over. After a couple of weeks of that, I was asking myself those questions, but I got through it. On that jet. Winnings, not yours until you collect. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. I think that's pretty common, but especially when you're dealing with per head bookies, don't put that money in your pocket, or even when you're dealing with partners. It's not yours until you collect. My buddy had someone stiff him last week. Guy actually came to me, said he had all these accounts. Gave them to my buddy, and I didn't want to deal with them. Told my buddy, tread lightly. I don't know this guy. Guy got down a bunch of money. We crushed everything, NBA props, and the guy blocked him. Guy blocked me. I posted his name on Twitter, so look at my Twitter, go through my feed, see who he is. Don't deal with that guy. Said he had these, anytime you got to tread lightly, someone comes, they say they have this high limit account. I don't think it was too much. It was probably only a few grand, but just remember, in general, the money isn't yours until it hits your account. So, it's what poker pro Dan Druff used to say, and it's so true. It's not yours until it hits your account. A lot of people back in the poker days used PokerStars and Full Tilt as their bank and just kept hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Black Friday hits, the money gets frozen. It's not yours until it hits your bank account. Doesn't matter how reputable these sites are offshore. Yeah, maybe they have a long track record, you're pretty sure, but you never know. When they're going to go under, someone there fucking develops a drug habit, a gambling habit, high up. The government shuts them down. You just never know when something's going to happen. So don't keep too much money on a lot of these sites that you can't afford to lose. Or you just risk the consequences when they do. It's like with Fliff right now. I advise people, yeah, they're soft. Go and beat them. But the bottom line is, if they go under, they go under. For me, it's not going to kill me to lose. If they walked away now with $30,000 of my money, I mean, that's a lot of money, but it's not going to kill me. I'm going to wake up and still do the same shit tomorrow. Some people, that might not be the case, but the truth of the matter is, like, I beat them for like 35 or 40,000, and it was pretty easy to do. So, like, I don't look at it as it's just it's almost like a free roll, like I was saying before, dealing with a bookie that tells you he's going to cut you off or steal your money if whatever. And I just, all right, whatever, let's go, bro. I did the same thing with Fliff. Let's just take what you can get and then just get the fuck out. The only thing that sucks is they've slowed down their cash out process. It's $5,000 a month, which is whatever. It is what it is. You just got to wait to get it. But I think they're going to pay. And I think if it were me and I had no money or little money, I would probably take a shot going on Fliff and trying to run it up, or any of these fucking sites that are these prize sites or soft sites like that. Here's another one, counting money. When you get rich from betting every day, now you have all this money coming in. You're crushing all these PPH books. It's just, you're getting deliveries of money. This guy's bringing you money. That guy's bringing you money. You're dealing with this runner. You're dealing with that runner. You're counting money. Happens to people at the highest levels in sports betting. Counting money is actually a big thing, and it takes a long time. People will stiff you. People will say they gave you X amount. They didn't give you that amount. If you just take it, you don't count it, then you're putting yourself at risk. I would suggest, if you are somebody out there that's dealing with a lot of runners or getting money from casinos, and you're just dealing with a lot of cash, which is inevitable, whether you're in poker or sports betting, get a money counter. It counts the money for you. Saves time. We had a guy in 2020 where we lost 100,000 betting baseball, getting the best of it by 20 cents every game. Lost 100K betting baseball. Paid him out. And then when it came time, we beat him for 100,000 in college basketball before he cut us off. And we started getting to his wall money. Wall money, meaning he's probably sitting in a wall or sitting in a safe for a long time, elastic stuck to the money. That money that was coming in, supposed to be 10K bands in there. And, some of them would be 94, some would be 93. Like, people, just because it comes in an elastic or something that says 10K doesn't mean it. Doesn't mean it is. It's the same thing with casinos. Like, if they fuck up counting your money and they don't use a counter, like most of the time they use a counter, it's going to be accurate. Or if somebody's watching over them, most of the time it's going to be accurate. But the truth of the matter is, if the casino shorts you on the money, then they're never going to try and come find you. In most cases, they're not. They're just going to say the draw's over X amount. They're not going to track down where it happened. Most casinos won't. But if you short them, you bet your ass the next time you come back in there, when their draw is negative 700 at the end of the night, they're going to find out who the negative 700 was, and they're going to get the money back. So always count your money. And if you're dealing with a lot of runners and you're dealing with a lot of cash, getting a counter will help you count the money in an efficient way. There's nothing worse than when you're counting out $25,000, no matter how you do it, and you're counting, and then you lose track or whatever, and it's just, and then you got to do it again, then you got to do it again, then you got to do it again. So when you get all that money, get a fucking counter. It's probably $100 or less on Amazon, and time is money. You'll save time. Let's see here. And I went over this a couple times. When you do have money, don't keep it in your house. Get it right to the bank. Put it in a box if you're going to use it as a tool for the rest of the year to bet more at other casinos, or just put it in the bank. Put it towards your yearly winnings. You can put money in the bank. Sports betting is legal. You pay tax. If you're paying taxes on it, you can put it in the bank, and then you can invest it, and then you start to go the right way. What else we got here? Grading props. If you become a good prop bettor, okay, and you're betting with per heads, or you're dealing with offshores. Multiple sites have they use multiple different ways to grade picks. This year we bet a lot of tackles props, tackles and assists props, solo tackles props. A lot of that stuff got bet. Some books grade winners, some bets grade losers, some books use NFL.com, some use ESPN.com, some use Fox.com. So they all use different sites. You expect different grades. That's another thing you don't account for, is the amount of time you're going to spend on a Monday as a prop bettor, having to track down phone numbers for PPH books. And I would suggest, if you do get something misgraded in a small market like this, you don't go right to your PPH bookie. Try and find the number for the skin, whether it's on the site or whether it's on Google, and or you got to ask somebody, hey, do you have the phone number for this site? You call in, you give your account number. You give your account number. You give them your evidence. You have it ready to go. Maybe the game was on YouTube. Maybe a guy played. Maybe he didn't play. Or he did play, and you got to prove that he did. And they're saying, oh no, he didn't. ESPN says this. ESPN sometimes doesn't have the targets. Sometimes CBS has the targets. So you can say, oh, the guy was targeted, so the bet wins. We had under whatever. And that's another thing. When you're betting unders, you're betting unders on guys that have 8 to 20 yard totals. Sometimes they're just going to get blanked. They're going to get targeted once, and then you got to prove it. So be ready to do that. And I would advise calling the site, not your bookie. You call your bookie, and then he's like, wait a minute, maybe he doesn't know when he's been paying you every week. And then he sees, oh, this guy's betting all kinds of fucking obscure stuff, betting under on this guy, under on that guy. I don't want to fucking book this circus shit. So be ready to put that legwork in. Sometimes it might not even be worth it for the amount of the bet and the trouble you're going to go through and the expected hourly after it's all said and done. But sometimes it's at scale. Maybe you have 30 bets on the guy, and you call, or they're all going through the same skin in a different way, and then you call, they flick the grade, and then they all turn to winners. So you got to pick and choose how you're going to do that, but I typically would go to the site before you go to your bookie to have it fixed. You're almost, sometimes in most cases, you're probably better off not even having the bookie know that you did it, because you just don't want them to see what you're betting. Some of these guys are lazy and they don't see what you're betting, and then they just pay. And that's what you want, and that's how you're going to make money. Let's see here. And as far as calling these sites, I used to call them on like Saturday, Sunday mornings if the lines weren't up in time and it didn't look like they were going to post them, because before this shit all went legal, these guys, you know, you're relying on some guy on some island in the fucking Caribbean to put these lines up. And if they didn't, you know, if I wanted to bet a Saturday slate at noon, you know, I'm sitting here at my computer just waiting, refresh, going here, going betting out other places. But my best out, like maybe an LV Action or something, maybe they don't have it up yet. So I got the phone number to the site, and I would just call in, and I would give my account number and just say, hey, like, when is this shit going up? And he'd be like, call your agent. And I'd be like, I am the agent. You know, I'd just start going off or whatever. I try to be very nice with them, but, you know, I'd be like, yeah, my guys need this shit. Fucking put it up, even though I wasn't the agent. I was the one betting. And they would get them up usually. They would listen. So if like markets aren't copying to your per heads that usually do, or even markets that you want, you could call these places and say, hey, I want you to put whatever on there, and maybe they will. But it used to work good, you know, and I'd have to be ready, because they, you know, they might go up at 11:50 or 11:45 or 11:55, sometimes 11:58, and you got to jam 20 bets in 2 minutes and get them all right. But yeah, get those phone numbers for the per heads and call them if you need to for whatever. Very beneficial. What else we got here? I'll skip that one this week. Not sure I want to get into that. Here's another thing, like, it's good to be honest, and it's good to be, you know, open about a lot of stuff, especially when dealing with your partners, etc. But sometimes you just can't be honest about where you're going to get the gold. You know, what site you're betting on, what you're doing, how you're getting it, which seems pretty obvious. I mean, you know, if you had a casino that was paying 10-1 on blackjack, would you tell somebody? No, you wouldn't. You would just keep going there, and you would just keep getting the 10-1 on blackjack. But I remember one thing. There was a guy I was kind of friendly with. I would say he was a better poker player than me. Playing in the same games as me, but I outworked him. And when the good games were going, I was there. I would try and get the best seats. When he was there, he would try and do the same thing. But he got into a relationship with a girl. He got lazy. And, you know, he would come to me here and there. And his girlfriend wanted him to get a real job. And he started, there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, I had to steer this guy down the wrong path. I did, to protect myself. It was a small site. I needed to make the money to stay alive for me, for my family. And he'd ask me questions all the time. How's the action been? And the action was fucking awesome for me. And I would just have to tell him, sorry, man. Looks like this shit's going to be over soon. And eventually the guy, he went into real estate. And I think he did pretty well. But, you know, sometimes, you know, you got to steer people the wrong way. I mean, in situations like that, I'm not saying to lie to everybody about everything, but, you know, sometimes you could tell a little white lie here and there to somebody that you're competing against that isn't working as hard as you. And it was like a Jedi mind trick. He stopped playing on the site. He would have gotten kicked off eventually. And, you know, I stayed on there for another year or two, and it enabled me to stay alive as a gambler and make more money. So whatever, I don't regret it one bit. just the way it goes. Just like if I was getting down on props right now and someone asked me, I would probably not tell them where I'm getting down the most money the most efficiently. That's just the way it is. Sorry, pal. What else? Yeah, always be looking for the next big thing. Crypto's one example. People that have been doing this, like crypto's been around as long as I've been doing this. 2009, I think Bitcoin was like 2010, 11, somewhere around there. But that was one thing that was pretty clear to most gamblers and poker players was the functionality of Bitcoin. Gamblers were the first to know how crypto functionally, how good it was, and the utility of it. And some people saw that as the next big thing. I know some poker players that stockpiled thousands of Bitcoins. There's multiple guys that have stockpiled 1,000 here, 2,000 there. My buddy who I referred to earlier in the show, he, in like 2013, he was doing like a lot of AP stuff, or 2014, he was doing a lot of AP stuff, somewhere in that area, in that time range. And he literally played poker for 2 years just to make Bitcoins, because he knew kind of had a feeling where this was going, which is where it is today. And he's pretty much called it spot on at every turn. And he just played poker, didn't care about the money because he was already rich, or he had enough money to live off. And I would say he was rich, more than had enough money to live off. But he was able to just play poker for a couple of years and just play for Bitcoins and just stockpile Bitcoins. So, in gambling, you see things the next big thing. I mean, I haven't got into these meme coins at all, but it looks like it's something. If you're on top of it, you understand all this shit, maybe you could make a shitload of money doing this. There are a lot of people doing that, but you also have to be an expert on the subject. But, a lot of gamblers, I wouldn't say, they kind of lucked into it, but cryptocurrency was the answer for payouts for a lot of these sports books and a lot of these poker sites. So that's where a lot of people in the gambling industry, why they're very wealthy now, or why they were able to scale easier, is because of cryptocurrency, which was the big thing then, which is now the big thing. But, some people saw it. So always be looking for the next big thing. It's very, very important. Always be looking for your next partner. Always be looking for more originators. At some point, I'm going to do a podcast on a team of like partners and originators that I formed that have gone into a project. I'll call it a project that'll make a great episode one day that I couldn't do right now. But, by making contacts and just, being social, making contacts, finding guys that win, you need to do it, because nothing lasts forever. And it's always good to have shit to fall back on. So be social, find partners, find guys that originate. You got to do that as you scale. I mean, you can't do it all at once from the bottom, but slowly add pieces to the puzzle as you do better and get bigger. Someone asked me a question about Prop Builder. Who is it? Is it beatable? I couldn't find the exact question, but like Prop Builder is just a central site or a central like plugin that a lot of these books will use. And let's just say 50 sites have Prop Builder. If it moves on one site, it's going to move on most of the other sites unless they have it set up a different way. But for the most part, it's just a central hub for props, for books to not have to originate their own lines or copy them from somewhere else. They just trust Prop Builder to do it, and the market's moved. Now, someone said, like, how do those lines originate? I don't think they're originating their own lines. They're copying them, and they're probably copying most of them from American books now. Before, they would copy them from offshores before the American books. But they have gotten sharper over time, and I don't know exactly who they're copying from, whether they're using the exact lines or if they're using an average, but I just know from stuff that I see on US sites, most of the time the stuff that's getting copied is coming from certain US sites. So for me, I'm usually prepared for when they launch what I'm looking for. I've already capped the US sites before they populate onto Prop Builder. And then I'll just attack on Prop Builder when they do come, if I need to, unless I want to let the thing sit until, for whatever reason. So, yeah, and I think it's certainly can be, I would consider Prop Builder a sharp book, even though it's not a book. It's just spread out amongst whatever many websites. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Prop Builder. Betting parlays to get around limits. People ask me that a lot, and it seems the general sentiment is, yeah, betting parlays to get around limits, good thing, can do it. Betting parlays can be plus EV if you know what you're doing. The same game parlays for sure, but they're starting to restrict those and catch on. I still don't bet parlays. I have friends who do. Some kiosks may restrict regular prop bets, but maybe you could do an SGP, get around it, get more action down. But it's just parlays. It's just not a part of my expertise because I've just never had to do it. I've just stuck with straight props originating and just relying on partners to do the rest of the work. That's pretty much it, so just haven't gotten into them. Feels like it would be right now for me. Just I couldn't even take on learning how to do that right now and where to incorporate it, because I don't even have the time to do a lot of the stuff that I need to do now efficiently. So until I need to, it's just not going to be something that I'm going to get into. Any info on account longevity would be awesome. NBA props have me looking up my fifth cousins. Well, I kind of just went over that there. I mean, account longevity, yeah, you may find a trick here or a trick there, like the SGPs or whatever, for longevity. But at the end of the day, that's what you need to do. You need to look for your fifth cousins or find partners. I mean, you get your cousins. And someone said, if anyone is paying attention and knows anything, prop accounts can't last. For the most part, yeah. But if you source out enough, you're going to find somebody they're just going to take it. And they're going to take it for weeks. They're going to take it for months. And they're going to take it for years. There are books out there. If you keep searching, you can find the right one. I kind of referred to this earlier. Eventually, I will do a podcast on this. But it's just not, I can't do it right now. So you just need to keep searching, because with books, it's almost like earlier what I said, trying to find the right, you want to try and find the right, the right guy to buy picks from. Well, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, and you're probably going to lose a lot of money before you find the right guy, which is going to be 1 in 1,000. So, just those odds right there, it's a waste of money. But I guarantee you, if you find 1,000 paperhead books, you're going to find 5 in there that just give you so much rope that have never seen what you're doing before, and they're just going to let you go. Most won't, but there are exceptions to the rule. We've had guys that have let us win 100,000. We've had guys that let us win 200,000. And then we have another guy who will eventually get his own podcast one day, but he can't get that podcast right now. So yeah, you can find guys that will take these props, but it just takes a lot of looking for them. You just got to churn through and have so many guys tell you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. We don't want this. Fuck you. We don't want your action. Fuck you. And then eventually you're going to find the golden goose. The question is, are you going to put in the legwork to do that networking, to find that guy? How serious are you about this? Okay. It's not about just one guy or the next guy or this guy did this. You got to keep trying over and over and over and over. And then you find some guy that he just thinks you're getting lucky and he wants to fight. And he wants to fight you every week and he thinks you're getting lucky and you just club him over the head every week. And he is out there somewhere. You just need to find him. And the question is, are you going to put in the work to try and get to that point? I don't know. I know I have put in the work, and that's what happens. You get to enjoy the fruit off the tree if you put in that work. And I don't know, we'll get back to that another day. So this thing's run pretty long. We're almost at an hour and a half here. Hope I didn't ramble on too long. Seems you guys have liked this podcast. Do me a favor, please. Like, subscribe, retweet, all that crap. It'll help build the podcast. And it's been growing. I'm getting more views every episode. So I'm glad you guys are sharing it. Any banter about it is good, whether it's positive or negative. I'm just, just trying to get a list of topics down here. Keep it somewhat structured, but kind of just go off on tangents on these list of subjects that I have. And just remember, I talked about that story earlier when I was all fucked up. So, you can come from nothing and become something. It's not like I'm not claiming I'm some gambling god or anything like that, but at one point I was in the fucking toilet. I started everything right now that I do was started on $100 loan from a guy named Ship the Chips. Gave me $100 loan, which I think I had to pay him a 20% return on. I had to give him $120 a week later. And I ran that up to $2,000, then $5,000. Then I staked the guy in a tournament. He won a tournament. And then I had another $3,000. And then, eventually that's just how I started this, So you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I was at the lowest of the lows at one point. So just remember, no matter what you're going through, you can get out of it. You got to put your mind to it and just, do the same thing every day. It's like losing weight. You can do it. You just have to do the same thing every day. Is it boring? Sure. But you can make it a little interesting. But for the average guy out there, you eat that 2,000 calories a day, you're going to lose weight. If you stay consistent with it, you can fuck off maybe once a week. But for the most part, eat 2,000 calories a day, you lose weight. It's the same thing with gambling. It's the same thing with drugs, with anything. If you do the right thing over and over and over and over, you're going to get results. So that's it, Started this with fucking borrowing $100 with a 120 return, and it did pretty well. So you can do the same thing. So that's all I got for this week. Have a good week.